Hello, welcome to the review of the second test. I say review of the second test because I bring glad tidings. India have won the match, and like it is said, a rising tide lifts all boats. Or even better is winning is not everything. Winning is the only thing. And Indian team must really be overjoyed today at what they have achieved. I say overjoyed because at some point of time there must have been hesitation whether we could pull it off today. But I'm glad yesterday when I said that this match will not go into the fifth day, it would finish on the fourth day. You might say I stuck my neck out, but I guess certain things are inevitable. When I say inevitable, I mean because there is a reason why India is so dominant at home, why it is so impossible to beat India in India. And many teams have tried it out. In fact, Steve Waugh once called it the final frontier, and the reason for it is we have a formula. We have a formula where we back our spinners and we bring our batsmen into play. But what has happened over the years is we have got an outstanding fast bowler in Jasprit Bumrah. So that has actually added yet another arrow to your bow. The unfortunate part is the batsmen are really not pulling their weight. If you look at this test match, we are very lucky that two batsmen, one in the first innings and one in the second innings, came good. First innings, it was Yashasvi Jaiswal, who made that stupendous 209. And in the second innings, it was Shubman Gill, who made that 104. But if you take these two batsmen away, the rest of the batting really looks pretty ordinary. The middle order is virtually non existent. And you needed somebody like Akshar Patel and Ashwin to come and chip in. And that is a sad, worrying part for this Indian cricket team because if and when or as long as our batsmen continue to put runs on the board, there is no way India can lose in India because our bowlers know what to do. They know exactly how to extract wickets. Now, England brought in a scare. That scare was because of what they called as baseball. Baseball is where they really go hammer and tongs at the bowlers. Now, a lot has been said and written about baseball, but I am a firm believer in horses for courses or strategy according to the requirements. And if you really look at the assessment of this English team, while there is a lot of talk on baseball, there are also quite a few of them at strategic situations who play quite conservatively or in a more orthodox form. None better example than today the way Crawley batted. Crawley made 70, 72, 73 runs, 73 to be precise, of 132 balls. That was at a strike rate of 55. The skipper, Ben Stokes. Now, Ben Stokes is an amazing batsman, but if you look at the way he plays, he first settles himself into the groove. He assesses the pitch, he assesses the bowlers, and only then does he go after the bowling and play his type of baseball. A classic example again is today. He made. I have the statistics right here. Ben Stokes made 11 in 29 balls. That is a strike rate of just 35. So 35. So that tells you that everybody is not playing baseball. There are batsmen who are willing to, go with the tide, look at the pitch, assess the bowlers. While at the other end, I don't know at this stage whether it's a dummy that they're selling to the opponents to keep them off track, to keep the pressure on the opponents. When you look at it, even the way they promoted Rehan's job was maybe to go after the bowling, whereas Crawley would then settle down and play his end up. And actually, that trend continued. It was Duckett who was going hammer and tongs. It wasn't Crawley. Later, Rehan came. He tried to play a lot of big shots. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't work, and most of the time it didn't work. Then there was Root, who also played a very unroot like shot. But all along on the other side, or the other end as it is, Crawley was not the person who was throwing his bat. Yes, he hit the bad balls out of the ground, but otherwise, he was playing a very, very orthodox style of cricket. Now, that's where I think that England is using this baseball concept very, very shrewdly. I say this because I think it has put the opposition under pressure. You saw in the first test how they came back from a 190 run deficit and won that test. And it was basically because everybody was glued in by baseball. Now, what India did today when the baseball strategy was being unfurled, they decided that defense was the best form of offense. For India, defense was the best form of offense. So many times they didn't set attacking field as you would usually set when the spinners are bowling on the fourth day. It was a lot more defensive, the field placings. Maybe there were times when there was just one slip or one short leg and nobody else close by. But there were people guarding the long on, the long off boundary, the deep mid wicket boundary. You might not have got wickets at those distant places, but the pressure was always on. A batsman had to hit a really good shot to clear that. So I think India were played a bit smart today. They decided that defense would be the best part of offense, and it paid off. It paid off handsomely. But again, I qualify this because in Indian conditions, India know exactly what to do. The tragedy is, especially in these first two tests, our batting has not come to the party. And our batting simply has to come to the party. There's no point of one or two batsmen getting runs. We need at least about two, three others also getting 50s. And that, frankly, is not happening. Hopefully, in the next test, it will happen. But this test, too, I think the batsmen, that is Jaiswal and Shubman Gill, bailed us out of trouble, not the others. These two bailed us out of trouble. And that is where skipper Rohit Sharma really needs to go back to the drawing board. And while Bharat kept very well, if KL Rahul is back, I think KL Rahul should come back as a wicket keeper and play an extra batsman in place of Bharat. That's my feeling. That's my take on that situation. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about today's game and this match in particular. And the key again here is India won the toss. Batting last in Indian conditions, chasing a big score is not possible at all. And no team really has scored 350 plus and won a test match in India. It is difficult, virtually impossible to get that kind of score on a wearing fourth day or fifth day pitch. And it's shown today. The pitch was not as bad as people expected it, but the pressure of a scoreboard is one. Another thing is England also, some of their batsmen wanted to shut out the game as quickly as possible or really go after the opposition bowlers. Now, England have got a strategy to do this, and it gets into the mind of the opposition. It gets into the mind of the bowlers. It gets into the mind of the fielders. It gets into the mind of the opposition captain. But where I think India really were at a great advantage was that we had experience. The experienced bowling of Bumrah, the experienced bowling of Ashwin. Now these are people who, even if you hit them, they will come back at you. They will not be cowed down. And they showed today. They were not cowed down. They had a strategy. Yes, England had a strategy in their batting. The bowlers also had a strategy in their bowling, and they knew exactly where to bowl. And Kuldeep Yadav too is a different bowler. He's not the same bowler who was about 2 or 3 years ago when he couldn't take a pasting. Now he's okay. He's happy. He just laughs, which is good. That's how you really need to work out on your bowling temperament. So, in all, I think the Indian bowling is a lot more experience. I'm not sure if Mukesh will hold his place. I don't expect him to hold his place. It probably goes to somebody, maybe a all rounder if we have one, medium pace all rounder. Otherwise, somebody else needs to bowl with a new ball. I don't think Mukesh fits in at all. He's struggling. He really is struggling. He may be a good bowler in maybe South African conditions or English conditions, but Indian conditions against batsmen who are willing to go after him, like some of the English batsmen, Decade in particular, went after him, I think he'll struggle. So, and it's very clear that England, what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. They have realized that they've got into the minds of the Indian bowlers and the Indian fielders and the captain. Now, I say they've got into the mind because even the bowlers have realized that there's no point in attacking, even if the ball is, fourth day pitch, ball is taking a lot of turn. They're not willing to attack. They know that two slips at a gully for the fast bowlers. That's standard. They're not going into an overtly aggressive field. So even Indian bowling defensive approach to England's aggression is part of the fact that the English batsmen have got into the Indian mindset. But There is nothing wrong in that. Each team plays its own strategy. England have come with a strategy. They have come with purpose. They know what to do. But they don't have while they have very good batsmen, they are not able to go across the line. In the first test, I think India was just unlucky. We should never have lost that, except that some of our batsmen played very poorly. We shouldn't have lost it at all. Uh, in the second test, thanks to these two youngsters who batted very well, India was able to save the day. But in India is a different proposition. Every team knows that. Every visiting team knows that. The Indian team also knows that. They're very confident. They know if they put runs on the board, they're going to do it. But it's just a question of getting the guys who will put the runs on the board. England will look back and wonder if they could have played a little different today. Maybe if they played a little different, they might have actually run India much closer rather than losing by 106 runs. Maybe they could have come 50 runs, 40 runs within the target, caused a lot of panic in the Indian ranks. They could have made it a little more competitive. Maybe Joe Root, the way he got out, uh, or the way he batted right through, just throwing his bat. That's not the way. Joe Root has got thousands of runs in Test cricket by playing a different style. But suddenly now I think he's playing according to the wishes of the management and throwing his bat around. Maybe he's the person who really has to play a lot more defensively and get the others to play far more aggressively. But all in all, I think it's been a very entertaining test. It's also very entertaining because there are two different mindsets at play here and two different approaches to strategy at play here. England wants to play aggressively. India realized that and decided that defense is the best form of aggression, of offense. And their bowling, especially their bowling, is likewise. But the batting, Indian batting, has still not come to the party. Maybe with the return of KL Rahul and Virat Kohli, it could be a better setup. But right now, the fears are the Indian batting is not coping up as it should. The India's first innings target of 396, of course, made plainly by Jaiswal. I mean that set the tone for the entire match because 396 is very handy. We would have expected 450 or close to 500, especially with one of the batsmen getting a double hundred. But with none of the others really coming to the party, 396 was a good total. Just that we would have been happier at that stage if it had been a lot more. And England, if you really look at England's batting, 253 and 292 on this pitch doesn't really look impressive. At least in the first innings, they could have run a lot more score, a bigger score, but they just ran into Jasprit Bumrah, who bowled superbly with the old ball. The way he was reversing the ball, he made it look like it was virtually impossible to play him. His 6 wickets really opened up the match. But for that 6 wickets, maybe England would have got closer to 396. Maybe they would have got 320, 330 and made it a closer contest. But that was not to be. So, all in all, I think it's been a very satisfying match for India. Satisfying because we won the match. But I think something needs to be done about this middle order batting because our batting has still not come to the party. And we need to get to that very quickly. The spinners are settled. Maybe if Jadeja comes back, I'm not sure if he's going to come back for the next test. But if he comes back, the spinners should be much better. Maybe a good pacer, but otherwise, the bowling unit is very settled, and they will also take a lot of confidence from the way they have bowled today. The bowlers, the body language was good. They knew the English batsmen were going after them, but they didn't allow that at all to upset their equilibrium. They kept going at it. The field placing was very good, spot on. You needed that certain amount of defensive approach to it to deprive easy runs, and that's what I think India did and did pretty well today. So all in all, England have got into the Indian minds, but at the end of the day, like I said earlier, a rising tide lifts all boats, and for India, nothing. A win is an absolutely rising tide, and a win by 106 runs is amazing. So here we go. We are tied 1-1 in a five-test series, which is very good. So the next three tests also, if this is the tone that is being set, I'm sure that the next three tests will really be a humdinger of a series. This will be. Goodbye. See you later.